everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of At the Office. I'm your host, Simone, and I'm here today with Anthony and Warren.
What's up?
How's it going, guys?
Good. Oh, man, good. You know, I'm feeling a little razzle-dazzle in this conversation tonight.
Are you guys ready for today's episode?
Oh, baby, I was born ready.
He's always ready to lose, so it's all good. He's always extra excited.
Ready to hand these L's out.
Come on, guy.
Flaming hot? You want it flambéed? I can either go ahead, I can cook it any way you like, baby. I can hand you this L flambéed, rare, medium, well done.
You know how to flambe?
Baked, flambe this L for you. However you want it. I'm a versatile cook.
Apparently we're cooking in this episode, so let's jump right in. With week 6 behind us, the MVP race is in full effect. Stars are now in the topic of conversation that weren't thought of when the season started. With everything that we've seen so far, who are in your top 4, Anthony?
Well, I had a top 5, but with my homeboy going down last night with that reckless knee injury, I can easily name a top 4. Right now, my number 1 is the same as it was last week, which is going to be Dangerous Wilson. As of right now, I mean, I guess you can go ahead and say run CMC. Christian McCaffrey is going to replace Mahomes to me for number 2. Number 3, but it's very slight. I can almost say he's 2A, is going to be that man, Deshaun Watson. And the number 4, you know him pretty well, my man L. Jack to Lamar Jackson. But Russ Wilson, just hands down. I mean, this dude, he's a phenomenal quarterback. You know, he doesn't, to me, and I know you and I have went ahead and been on the same side of this conversation in this battle with certain folks. Russell Wilson, even though he may not have been a top 3, even top 5 player in the beginning of the season, to be an MVP candidate, the things that dude has done for this franchise is beyond what anybody or even myself looks for in an MVP candidate. You know, this dude, not only has he went ahead and he's dealt with a decline since his Super Bowl, well, his team, I should say, not him, but since that Super Bowl where Pete Carroll decided to go ahead and have him pass the ball, and that freak accident happened where the interception happened by Malcolm Butler in the end zone. Everybody knows Beast Mode should have went ahead and ran that ball in. That's not a debate at all whatsoever. But since that defense has declined, the Legion of Boom is one of the best trios in a backfield that we've probably ever seen in a very long time. But if you look at it over the years, you lose Marshawn. You go ahead and you lose Sherm. And Cam almost in the same year. You know, for different reasons. Sherm goes ahead and moves on to Niners. Cam, he goes out with that neck injury, and they say it's not safe for him to come back. Earl goes ahead and does his contract holdout. He gets injured halfway through last season, and now is on the Ravens. You know, you lose Thomas Rawls as your star running back. You go ahead and you lose your receiving core. I mean, the only dude that this guy really has from when he started, well, not started, but over the last few seasons, is Bobby Wagner. When you really think about it, you know, Jimmy Graham came and went, didn't add up to much for the way that Pete Carroll and his scheme worked out, but this dude, Russ, is phenomenal right now. With everything that this dude has done in the matter of this 6-game span to take this team to 5-1, it's crazy. I mean, this dude right now is over 1,700 passing yards. He has rushing touchdowns, 17 passing touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. And this isn't even like a top-notch receiving core. If this dude had a top-notch receiving core or even a big headline name, you throw in D-Hop, you throw in Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, honorable mention. You just throw in any top receiver that you have in the league, I can understand how this dude's stats the way that they are. But this dude, Ty Lockett, and I'm not knocking this dude whatsoever. This dude, Ty Lockett, is a good, he's a good 2B, right? He's a good secondary receiver. He's a WR2 on any other team. This dude, Russ, has this dude, Ty Lockett, looking like a wide receiver 1. And obviously he is on the Seahawks. But just with everything that Russ has done, especially with Pete Carroll and his run-heavy offense, it's crazy. Because he's still going ahead and he's still running with Chris Carson. This is still a run-first, run-heavy offense. And for Russ to still go ahead and have over 1,700 yards and no interceptions with over 17 passing touchdowns is something of just amazement. You know, my number 2, Christian McCaffrey. This dude is breaking records. He's on pace right now to go ahead and set league records. This dude has over 600 rushing yards right now, 305, I think, receiving yards, and 9 touchdowns total. You know, this dude is estimated to go over 2,700. No, he has over 2,700 yards, if I remember right, scrimmage yards, right? And he's actually on pace to go ahead and no, if I remember right, he has 2,700 estimated yards from scrimmage, which is going to be an NFL record on the pace that he's on right now. This dude, to me, even though Kyle Allen looks nice, this dude has went ahead and been a main reason on why Kyle Allen looks as great as he does. Because this dude, I mean, Kyle Allen is just throwing pretty passes to CMC, and he's taking that ball. I mean, the dude had I think it was over an 80-yard break last year, or not last year, last game, and went ahead and made it look something easy, effortless. The 2B to my conversation right now, and this is a dude, and you know I've been rocking with this dude for a while, is Deshaun Watson. You know, this dude has always had MVP potential, always MVP caliber player. His problem with the Texans was that they never had that offensive line to go ahead and support him. You know, I had said it before the season started. My worry after Andrew Luck retired was that he was going to be the next Andrew Luck. You have all this potential, all this talent on this dude, but the Texans are not going ahead and keeping this dude safe because he led the league last year, I believe, in sacks.
Right.
So, you know, you have a talent like Deshaun Watson, and he's not just your run-of-the-mill quarterback when you really look at him at the end of the day. A lot of people, if you haven't paid attention and you just watch football on just any given Sunday and you don't follow stats, you don't follow players, you don't really know too much about Deshaun Watson. You know, you may know he's a starting quarterback, but just the talent and the ability that this dude has is just a God-given talent, you know. Deshaun went ahead and led that comeback. Against Kansas City.
Right.
You know, 0-14 coming down from behind to beat Kansas City.
Right.
This dude, and I hate to say this because it's against my team, but I'll give this dude respect. This dude had 5 touchdowns against Atlanta. And that's not, and as right now, as we know, Atlanta's not the defense that it should be on paper. Vic Beasley just went up on the trade block. For the Falcons just went ahead and notified everybody. But he ran up 5 touchdowns on the Falcons. And I think 2 of them were rushing touchdowns. Mm-hmm. This dude, Deshaun, is an amazing talent that they have. But boy, my number 4, he's up and coming. He'll get these ranks within the next few weeks. That man, L. Jack. Lamar Jackson.
Man, you a little too excited, man.
Man, I love this man.
I'm kind of worried how excited you are.
No, man, I'm excited for this dude. Second year in the league. Well, 1.5 seasons in the league. This dude has had over 1,500 passing yards. He is ranked. This dude is a quarterback and ranked number 8th in the league in rushing yards. Not just for quarterbacks. He's number 1 as quarterbacks. This dude just went ahead and set the record for over 250 in passing yards and 150 in rushing yards in one game. This dude is behind Zeke, right behind Zeke. I want to say he's about 30 yards behind Zeke in rushing yards. So for a quarterback to go ahead and have as much as a prolific name as Ezekiel Elliott right now in the league in rushing yards, that's saying a lot, man. If to me, and I know you about to go ahead and try to interrupt it, it's not your turn yet. Let me finish about my man.
Go ahead. You got the limelight.
My man, if this dude can really, it's looking like this dude is going to get into the playoffs, right? They have a big upcoming game right now against Russ in the Seahawks coming up on Sunday. But regardless, if this dude can go ahead and get this team even to the division championship, to me, it's hands down. It's going to be real hard to see this dude not be at least runner-up in the MVP conversation if he can get this Ravens team to the division championship.
All right, let me get on this. Let me get on this topic. So for the most part, I agree with you on your list. I really don't have too much to add. I mean, with Russell Wilson, I do have something to add. The guy is, I mean, when you're talking about Russ, you can't say he's anything less than special. I mean, what he's done over the past 2 to 3 years in Seattle has been second to none, to be honest. I mean, the guy, he literally carries Seattle. Every year, the man is carrying the city on his back. Like you mentioned, you know, they lost Hall of Famers on the defense. You know, they lose Cam, they lose Earl, they lose Sherman. You know what I mean? So they lost Hall of Fame talent on that defense. I mean, the Legion of Boom, like, there's an era in the NFL that will always be remembered for the Legion of Boom that they lost in Seattle. And Cam has kept the pieces together by himself. Not Cam. Russ has kept the pieces together himself. I mean, if you really look at it, you take Russ off Seattle, they're not a playoff team. I mean,
they're not even talked about.
Exactly, and it's as simple as that. I mean, and I got all the respect for Pete Carroll. You know, I've watched Pete Carroll through his whole career, from when he was the New England, the USC Trojan, you know, to now to Seattle. Like, I watched the guy for years, but the limb they went on to draft Russ, when they drafted him, I believe he went 4th or 5th round in the draft out of Wisconsin. Nobody's seen him develop into the player that what he is today. In my opinion, he's bona fide MVP this year. If he keeps this up, what he's doing this year, there should be nobody else even in the conversation. I mean, Mahomes is putting up nice numbers. But the things about Kansas City that worries me is the 2 recent losses they had. You know, they were completely dominated by Indianapolis. And I feel like they put the blueprint out there for the league to how to beat Kansas City. You know, like, nobody knew how to defend Mahomes. Now, you know, last year this guy was like, remember the Rams a year ago? It was the greatest offense on turf. It was the same thing like that. Like, dude was he was doing what he wanted to do each week. This year, it's kind of got a little stiffer. He got a little pushback because there's a little bit of film out.
Yeah, but you can't really blame that 100% on Mahomes.
I'm not blaming it on Mahomes. I'm just saying that there's film out and people know how to defend this guy now.
When you really look at it in the way that teams are playing Kansas City as a whole now, they're not playing Pat Mahomes. Their anecdote to go ahead and cure themselves of the Mahomes issue is keeping him on ice.
Correct.
So that lies more on the defense than it would on Mahomes.
Correct. I mean, they are limiting his opportunities, but when
You're right.
But when he is on the field, Mahomes is running a lot now. You know, like compared to last year, Mahomes didn't run this much. Mahomes was comfortable in the pocket. All right, first option, second option, third option, touchdown.
He lost his first option and wreak havoc.
True, he did. But I mean, even the beginning of this year, he was still wrecking havoc with what he had without Tyreek. You know, with the rookie and Harmon and Robinson that came out of nowhere. Nobody knew about this kid.
But no one really knew of any of them, Robinson or Hardman.
Correct. But he was wrecking havoc with them earlier this year. But back to what I was saying, he's running a lot more. Like, you look at that Detroit game where he actually looked back at the ref when he took off, you know, which I've never seen that as a football fan ever. You know, that's something you more see in the NBA, you know, which was weird to see in the NFL. But I think teams are defending Kansas City differently. I think they're really looking at the film and they're coming up with a game plan, and I think it is working. But nonetheless, he deserves to be in the MVP talk. I agree with you on Deshaun Watson. What he's doing in Houston is amazing. You know, like he deserves all the praise. They do have a couple bad losses. The problem with Houston is they need to protect him. You know, like you said, he's led the league in the most sacked quarterback in the league. You know, and he still puts up the numbers that he does. They had a terrible loss a couple weeks ago to Carolina, where it was just you watch the team, you're just like, man, what is going on? Like they need to protect this guy.
Defense, though. To me, they're a slept-on defense.
They're not. They are a sleeper defense. They do have a sleeper defense over there, but with the talent that Houston has, they should have won the game, in my opinion.
Well, you got D-Hop on there too.
Correct.
You know, I mean, anybody that's gonna go ahead and pair Watson and Hop or Noob,
yep,
you're gonna go ahead and say they should win every single time.
Right.
But you know, Carolina, I feel, especially in fantasy, up until recently, you know, maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks tops, they were a defense that was really slept on.
Correct.
You know, there's dude in our fantasy league right now. He will not go ahead and release that defense, and he releases some real questionable people, but he won't release that Carolina defense because trust me, I'm waiting for it to happen.
They are. I mean, they are definitely a defense that they're up and down. You know, they're no slouch. They are a good defense. But like I said, I take nothing away from Hopkins. I think the aspect, not Hopkins, of Watson. I think the aspect of Watson that people really overlook is how clutch he is. Like the kid is clutch. You know what I mean? And I really didn't learn how clutch he was until Clemson, when they won a national title against Alabama. He took them down the field, and you know he hit Renfro for that.
Yeah, I
touchdown.
was gonna say that was one with Henry Renfro, right?
Yeah. So that was the beginning of where I seen like, okay, this fool may have that it factor. And then now throughout his career in the NFL, like, I mean, you look at this past Sunday against Kansas City, you're down 14-0. He leads them back on the road in Arrowhead, and they win the game. You know, and it's moments like that where you're just like, okay, this is an A1 quarterback. He has what it takes. You know, all they have to do is just put the pieces around him and see what he can do. You know, so I'm very impressed with him. I think he should be in the MVP race. But this one may surprise you. I'm not going to go with Lamar. So I'm gonna shake it up a little bit.
That's because you're a Lamar hater. That's all right.
You know what?
That's all right.
I like Lamar.
No, you don't. No.
I think he's a phenomenal talent.
You keep that same energy.
I mean, I know you love the Falcons, and you know he looks like Michael Vick on the field.
Oh, he's gonna pass Michael Vick.
Oh,
as of right now, this dude. So Michael Vick, his record season, I think he broke like barely 1,000 yards, right? This dude right now, Lord willing, he stays healthy. He's on status right now and on pace to break over 1,200 yards.
If he can stay healthy,
if he can stay healthy,
he's real frail.
I wouldn't say he's frail.
He's real frail.
Frail's a real strong word.
He's frail, and he's lucky that the AFC North is pretty trash this year. I mean, nobody respects Cleveland anymore. Pittsburgh.
Well, I don't think Cleveland only built a hype around their self.
They had a ton of preseason hype. A ton.
But who built that hype?
The media, of course. But
no. Cleveland built that hype. Baker Mayfield built that hype.
But when you make the moves that they made, trading for Odell,
Jarvis,
and then you already had the pieces coming back. You had Jarvis, you had Myles Garrett, which is having a phenomenal year. Beginning of the year, he said he wanted to go for defensive MVP, and he's tied for the most sacks in the league. He has 9.
Yeah, but that whole defense is, I think, leading the league in penalties too.
Yeah, but both their starting quarters is out, which a lot of people don't know. They're injured at the corner position. So, and both of their corners they have, they're really talented players. I think they're both Ohio State guys. That's how I really remember them. But they're both hurt right now. But my fourth guy for MVP, which I think you might be surprised about, but I would throw Aaron Rodgers in the mix. What the guy's doing in Green Bay, with his major weapons out, like, and in that running back, he has Aaron Jones, he has Williams. That going into the season, nobody projected these guys as top running backs or guys to look out for, or maybe even guys you draft on your fantasy team. Now, I mean, you look at Aaron Jones against the Cowboys, dude put up damn near a 50-piece game, in fantasy points. He had, 3 or 4 touchdowns in one game?
Dude had over 100 rushing yards.
Yeah.
I think it was 150-something rushing yards.
He killed it.
Yeah.
He killed it against the Cowboys. Nobody would have projected this. And then you have Devontae Adams out. That's his number one receiver.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking about. This dude should always be, to me at least, be in an MVP conversation. My whole thing about it is that these are dudes. You wouldn't have talked about Lamar Jackson being in the MVP conversation at the beginning of the year. You wouldn't have talked about Deshaun Watson being in the MVP conversation at the beginning of the year. When you really think about it, I mean, Russ maybe in the top 10 for MVP conversation because it's Russ Wilson. But Aaron Rodgers, to me, every year going into it, has always been in the MVP conversation, at least for me.
I agree. I agree with you. To me, reason why I put him in the MVP conversation is because look what the man has to work with. He really doesn't really have much on offense.
But when I'm just going to make a point of reference to when the Cowboys, a couple years ago, when they first got Zeke and Dak, and they made it all the way until they met number 12. And once they met number 12, even with the shell defense, there was multiple injuries that game in the playoffs. With a shell of an offense, a shell of a defense, this dude still came back and beat this juggernaut Cowboys team. He even the year before. I mean, this dude, and you and I have talked about multiple times Aaron Rodgers, right? And his infamous Hail Mary passes. Mm-hmm. He has had crazy, ridiculous accuracy with hitting these receivers in the end zone.
Right.
I lost money because I made the mistake. Of going ahead and thinking a couple years ago that Carolina was going to go ahead and win by, I think it was 2.5 points. They were going to win in the playoffs. I think the Packers won by 3. All because of that infamous Hail Mary pass. And I think it was to a no-name. A no-name, I want to say it was
I know what you're talking about. It was like to a tight end or something.
Yeah. And it was a Hail Mary. Who throws a tight end a Hail Mary in the end zone?
I know what you mean.
So, I mean, to the beginning of the season, even with Devontae Adams out, this dude is still. I mean, MVS went out.
Yep.
And
I believe Geronimo Allison is out too.
Geronimo Allison went out too.
Yeah. So,
but I think it was MVS or it was Allison that went out in the Detroit game halfway through because of the helmet to helmet.
Yeah. So right? I mean, he literally has dudes off the street. Literally. I mean, at tight end, he has Graham, and then he has Mercedes Lewis as well. So I mean, he has their names. Guys that used to be something in the league, but. The thing that bothers me about Aaron Rodgers is now he's in the part of his career where he's getting overlooked, and I think nobody's really giving him a legit look at this MVP candidacy. Like he's really, he has Green Bay 5-1,
Mm-hmm.
Now credit, they do have a defense this year.
That's what I was going to say too. Is their defense has picked it up a lot.
Right. This is the best defense I've seen in Green Bay in a while since the Charles Woodson days when they beat Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl. So, but how he carries a team and the things that he does, the guy's just so elite. Like his movements in the pocket and how he's able to escape the pocket and
his scramble game.
And he throws it on the dime just where only his player can get it. On a sideline, it's beautiful football, and I said the same thing with Russ, and I feel like this is what makes you an MVP candidate is if you took him off Green Bay, really, how many wins are they looking at?
If you take Aaron Rodgers off of Green Bay 5 years ago, who?
Exactly. it's Green Bay who? And that's what I feel like makes an MVP. You know, if you take this player off this team, okay, what are you made of?
But you can say the same thing, and I'm not trying to advocate for Lamar, right? But if you take Lamar off of the Ravens, who? I mean, Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl with these guys, but right after Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, all them dudes left.
Flacco's trash.
But that's what I'm saying. So if you keep Flacco on the Ravens, who?
I agree. If you do put Flacco on the Ravens, you're like, okay. I mean, what are we talking about? I don't know. That's an interesting discussion because I feel like he does have some weapons though. You know, like he has Mark Ingram, which is he's a well-established running back in the NFL.
But But he's not in his prime anymore.
He's not. But I would take him over any running back in Green Bay. I would.
Really?
Yes, I would take him over Aaron Jones. I would take him over Williams. I mean, Mark Ingram he's a bona fide NFL running back.
Well, yeah, and this is true, and he also has the years of experience.
Yes.
So I'm with you on that. 100%, I'm with you on that. Mark, he was also a Heisman winner.
Yes.
Like going into the NFL, you didn't really hear of Aaron Jones.
No.
Right out in Texas, you didn't hear about Aaron Jones.
No.
I mean, you as a huge college fan, I mean, did you ever really pay attention to Aaron Jones?
I don't.
Or Jamal Williams?
Looking back on it, I can't remember. I don't remember them in college at all. I'm gonna have to look at actually where they went to see if it's sparks.
Well, I want to say that Aaron Jones went to. I know he went to Texas, but I want to say it was. It wasn't. I don't think it was Texas Tech.
Texas A&M, Texas University. Texas.
I think it's Texas University.
I'd have to.
He went to, but he went to Texas because I think he is from Texas, and I know. I know whenever he goes to play in Dallas, you know, he always tries to make it a point to show up and show out. Yeah, because he has family that's still out there.
Right.
You know, and I believe that's what he said was a major point in him balling out at Cowboys, in Jerry World.
Right. And, I mean, you look at Hollywood, though. I mean, you put Hollywood with Aaron Rodgers.
But Hollywood has been gone the last 2 weeks.
He has, but... I mean, from the pocket, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is. I mean, he makes Geronimo Allison and Scantling look like legit receivers. I mean, you imagine him with Hollywood. Hollywood could get behind any defense, you know, and you know when you're in the pocket, there ain't too many quarterbacks in the pocket better than Aaron Rodgers.
No.
And I mean, Lamar Jackson. He's a hell of a talent. You know what I mean? But if a guy's not running wide open, you know, I really don't trust him as much as Hollywood. I'm not Hollywood. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers could get Hollywood the ball in tight coverage. You know what I mean? He could fit it in those tight windows.
Lamar has dropped some dimes. He's dropped some dimes in the end zone this year, but most of them have been to Andrews, the tight end. But that's because it's a bigger target.
Correct.
But you gotta, give my man some time.
Look, I'm giving him time. I'll give him time, but I mean, just imagine it with me though. I mean, Aaron Rodgers with Hollywood, man, dude, like.
No, I'm with you 100%.
Man,
but Aaron Rodgers going on 10 years since the Super Bowl.
He is. But I mean, he still looks. I mean, you seen Devontae Adams before he got hurt. The dude put up it was like 30 fantasy points at half.
But
like
Devontae
he went bananas.
Devontae Adams hasn't been putting in work this year.
He hasn't. I mean, he's been a roller coaster this year. But when he gets back, maybe things start clicking. I mean, now that the running game is going, because early in the year they really didn't have identity with the running game. After this Cowboys game, they really have an identity now. So. Possibly that was what was missing. We'll see what happens when he comes back from the turf toe. But I don't know, man. I like putting Aaron Rodgers in the mix. Maybe I should extend mines out to 5. I would say Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson because I'm not trying to take anything away from Lamar Jackson. I mean, what he's doing in his first year in Baltimore it's special, It really is special. To me, I'm not really going to be overly critical of Lamar Jackson until next year, because just like what I said earlier, what we see with Kansas City is teams are defending them differently because of last year and they watched the film. Lamar Jackson, his sample size last year wasn't too much. They mostly played Flacco. Lamar Jackson played mostly in the playoffs. So next year will be really interesting to see how teams defend Baltimore. Now that there's more film.
The thing about Lamar is that you can't really, if he continues on with his improvement in his pocket precision and just his passing, this dude's going to be scary. Because you can't, how are you really going to defend this dude? Because once you go ahead and he sees you cheating in the box, and he knows you're about to run the blitz, if he can go ahead and get that flick of the wrist down, it's scary. Because he's going to beat you anyway. Is he not?
I agree, man. I agree. He has the tools to beat you with his legs or beat you with his arms. To me, it's between the ears for him. If he could get it upstairs, and he could kill you from the pocket, then you reach the point where it's just like, what do we do? How do we defend this guy? So I agree with you, man. I see it, and that's with all quarterbacks that could run, and that's what's happening with Russell Wilson. It's like he could run, he could do it from the pocket,
but
dude, he could do it from outside the pocket.
Just crazy in the pocket.
His speed is what sets him apart.
I mean, this dude, for those that may not remember, this dude I think he played. He was drafted and I think on the MLB roster for the Texans.
Who, Russ?
Russ.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was at one point in his career. He had signed, I want to say, with the Texans and was on the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And this was at the same time where they were saying, well, we want to get Cap on an MLB team, and Cap is on the Niners. But Russ was legit. I mean, I know Kyler Murray was the first ever player to ever be drafted in the first round to the MLB and then first round in the NFL.
Right.
But he decided to go NFL.
Right.
But Russ, man.
Yeah,
Russ has always been something special, man.
He is. Russ. And the thing that impresses me most about him is his leadership. That fool is a bona fide leader. Like, he leads. If you watch him play, it's like he don't only lead that team, he leads that city. You know what I mean? Like, that dude is, when he retires, he should be like the mayor of Seattle. Seriously, it's that.
He could do it.
Yeah,
he could do it.
He leads that city.
Well, it was like I said last week. This dude used to win games with Seattle. Now he wins games for Seattle.
Yep.
So it's not the team with him. He's winning the games by himself.
Yeah.
Without Russ, without Aaron Rodgers, these would just be two teams that would be in the realm of. I mean, so let's and I don't want to keep continuing to go ahead and say Lamar Jackson, but you take Lamar, you take Aaron Rodgers, and you take Russell Wilson out of those three cities. I mean, granted, you get maybe a Pat Mahomes, a Tom Brady, whatever in there. These are three teams without those three quarterbacks. You're just kind of like, okay. It's like watching a Broncos game at this point.
Yep. You're watching a team that's going to be a shell of himself. Mm-hmm. I mean, even you take McCaffrey off Carolina, it's a shell of himself. But it's going to be interesting to see what Kansas City looks like with Mahomes down. So,
we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
This Sunday, the Dallas Cowboys host the Eagles in Dallas. Dallas is now on a 3-game losing streak. Are the Cowboys now officially in a must-win, and can they beat the Eagles? Warren, what are your thoughts?
So, the Cowboys, man, I feel like they are in a must-win situation. Losing 3 games in a row in the NFL is a big deal, especially when every game you got to win every game, and plus they're in the NFC East. It's sort of a sneaky division down there. You got Philadelphia down there. You got the Cowboys. The Redskins, which are they're no good, and you got the Giants, where the Giants is kind of a sneaky team. Like they might win a couple games here and there. Nobody's really expecting them this year to do much, but to lose games like they lost this past Sunday against the Jets, it was a big loss. You know, like me, I forecasted, I seen it coming. I felt like the Cowboys since the beginning of the season have been fool's gold. They haven't beat anybody. You know, like everybody they played was pretty much was an abysmal team or somebody that wasn't contending or competing for anything. So I seen them going to, you know, MetLife and losing the game. You know, the Jets were winless. They were a bad football team. The Cowboys are expected to win those type of games. And if you look at how the Jets beat the Cowboys, like in the first half, they absolutely dominated the Cowboys. The Cowboys were dominated. I can't say they were dominated for the full game because the second half they actually showed up and they made it a game. But if you watch the game for the first half, you're just like, man, these dudes was dominated. You know, and if you're a Cowboys fan, you're going to be worried on all sorts of levels. You're going to be worried because of the Amari Cooper injury. You know, you're going to be worried because Dak didn't play well, and this is the guy that wants, you know, $40 million a year. You know, and then you got this lame duck coach in Jason Garrett. You know, that's been around for years, and there's been questions swirling around him like, should he have a job? Should he get an extension? Or should he be fired? You know what I mean? And to me, as a Cowboys fan, I would be worried on all those levels. And then, I mean, you could even throw Zeke in there. Like, Zeke hasn't looked really dominant this year. And they just paid Zeke. You know what I mean? They just gave Zeke all that money. So, if I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm worried. Especially losing to the Jets. I mean, that's a game if you look at your schedule, you're like, okay, and you penciling in W's, you're penciling that W against the Jets. You know, so that game, losing to the Jets, that's the type of game that's going to haunt you at the end of the year, where you're in a situation where you got to win to get in the playoffs, and you end up losing, and you miss the playoffs. You're going to look back and be like, that Jets lost. That's the game that we should have won, that we didn't. We lost to a team that came into the game that was winless, and we shit the bed. So, this is a must-win. Philadelphia, you could almost say it's a must-win for Philly as well. I mean, they're both looking at in the mirror at each other like, we both got to win. You know, Philly, they went to Minnesota last week, and they were just embarrassed. You know, like, Stephon Diggs did whatever he wanted to do. They made Cousins look like a Pro Bowl quarterback, and he's been struggling. But Minnesota, they did what they had to do. In Philadelphia, they look trash, to be honest. So both of these teams, I feel like, are in a position where they must win. I probably have the Cowboys winning the game. I think they'll respond after losing 3 games straight. They're at home. I think they're going to lean on Zeke, which they should have been doing because Dak is just a game manager at this point. That's, to me, all he's been since he's been in the league. He doesn't deserve the contract, which I've already mentioned on past podcasts, that he doesn't deserve the money. So, I think they'll win the game. I think it's going to be an entertaining game. It's going to be a close game. I think Philadelphia is going to come to play. But I think the Cowboys will edge them out a little bit. I think they'll probably win a field goal. They'll win by a field goal late. They'll kick a field goal to win the game late. But if the Cowboys lose this game and they're on a 4-game losing streak, to be honest, I don't think Jason Garrett makes it out the weekend. I think he'll be fired. It's just, you can't start off 3-0 and then lose 4 straight. I mean, it's just you can't do it, especially with him, and he's in a contract year, and you know, since he's been with the Cowboys, he hasn't really proved anything. You know, like, they got elite pieces on defense, they have elite pieces on offense, and what does he have to show for it? You know, as a coach, and his resume as the Dallas Cowboy coach, he has nothing to show for it. And it's kind of funny to watch how it all plays out, because if you watch his demeanor on the sideline the past 2 games, you can see the pressure getting to him. You know, like with Green Bay, he had that whole incident where he got the penalty where he went off on the ref. You know, and then during the Jets game, you could just see the frustration on him on the sideline. You know, like he was upset, like you could just see the pressure is mounting on this man. You know, because I mean, when you're the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, you know, probably the biggest organization in the United States, you know, your expectation is to win. You know, you got Jerry Jones, which is probably the most polarizing GM. I'm not GM, owner in all of sports. You have this pressure on you to win games, and it comes down to him in his last season at Dallas, and he hasn't done nothing to this point. Yeah, he's had a couple playoff runs, couple playoff wins, but he hasn't been to the Super Bowl, and that's the expectations in Dallas, Super Bowl or bust, So I find that just interesting to watch him on the sideline and just watch the pressure get to him. It's interesting, but I do think they'll get on track this week. I do think they'll beat Philadelphia in a must-win game, but if they do stumble, I will not be surprised if the guys let go by come Monday.
So Jerry's been kind of high always when it came to Garrett, but there is a reason why this dude is on his last year of his contract, right? Jerry's putting his feet to the fire. He's putting this dude put up or shut up and get out, right? So I definitely understand that. Upset of the week, you called it last week, Jets versus the Cowboys. But in all fairness to the Cowboys, Dak did lose Amari Cooper. Now, if Amari Cooper would have been there, would he have had his shootout, and could he have possibly mounted a comeback? There always is that if and, right? If you've looked at the Cowboys since they've went on this 3-game losing streak, there's a couple key points that I've noticed and I want to point out, right? Is that you see them leaning on Zeke a whole lot more and trying to be more dependent upon Zeke these last 3 games than you did so much in the beginning of the season. Because when you remember at the beginning of the season, I want to say a couple weeks ago on the podcast, I had said, wow, they're kind of really making it look like they don't need Zeke to go ahead and be the engine of this offense, right? Because they had Amari cooking, they had Dak cooking. The problem is right now is that the Cowboys are always playing from behind. And then that's when Dak is putting on his performances, right? But this dude needs to go ahead and start cooking from the gate. Now, this week, Philly does have the slight advantage to me. I'm picking Philly to go ahead and win this game for a couple different reasons. Right now, Dallas is ranked 32 or 32nd in drives started in their own territory. So, 32nd out of 32 teams, they are dead last, and they are always starting their drives in their territory. And usually it's around, on average, that 25-yard line. And that's what's killing them a lot. I was actually doing a study on it recently, and they broke it down almost to a science to where you start your drive on the field is your percentage. So, for example, if you start the ball on your 10-yard line, right, your odds of scoring a touchdown are 10%. If obviously the greater you go up the field, your chances increase. The Cowboys start theirs always, almost every single time in their own territory. I want to say, if I looked at it, because I tried to do an average, it was about 25 on the 25-yard line. So basically every kickoff return is almost being kneeled. Every punt you can consider as being kneeled in the end zone, and that's where they're starting. They need to open up their receiving, because when you go ahead and you look at it, it's almost as if Kellen was going ahead, their offensive coordinator was running their offense within the first 3 games, because you had a lot of spotlight on this dude, Kellen Moore. Mm-hmm. You had a lot of spotlight on this dude, even nationally, right? Al was even talking about this dude on Sunday night games or Sunday games about this dude and what he's done for the offense. And it started to seem, as you start to see the passing game kind of close up for him, and them lean on more of Zeke, it almost seemed like Jason Garrett is trying to go ahead and take over the offense again, because they're not relying on this passing offense as much as they were in the beginning of the season as they are now.
Well, in the past, they've had more success when they leaned on Zeke.
But that was with a different offensive coordinator. Now keep in mind this dude Kellen he used to play with Dak, right? And how he's leading the offense. And within the first 3 games, it seemed like this dude had full reins of the offense. But it seemed like Jason wanted to go ahead and let's get Zeke involved more. Let's get Zeke involved more. But if you look at it on a lot of different stats, is that Zeke is not firing on all cylinders. It seems like you don't have that boom from him like you were in previous seasons. That's not to say he's a slouch, but you don't see the same Zeke. You're not seeing the same Zeke as you had in the past. What they're going to have to go ahead and do to beat Philly in this is to open up that passing game. Now, I want to say they've cleared Amari. Amari said he is going to play on Sunday, which is good news for the Cowboys, because the Eagles secondary obviously was exposed last week with Diggs, right, in Minnesota. So they need to go ahead and revert back to opening up this passing game and get back to the game plan on the first 3 games if Jason really wants to go ahead and continue his coaching in Dallas. Because at this point, it seems like I said, he's going ahead and he's holding on to his job by a thread. Mm-hmm. Now he's trying to go ahead and take over and command the offense, taking a little bit less power piece by piece away from Kellen to go ahead and try to command this offense as well. So go back, open up the passing game, lean on Dak a little bit more. I mean, the dude right now is leading the NFL, I want to say, in QBR, right? So you have a good quarterback in Dak Prescott. But I still think that at the end of the day, the Cowboys are going to go ahead and get in their own way before the Eagles get in their way.
I think it's tough to say to lean on the passing game, when Dak has...
Open up the passing game. Not lean on it, but open up the passing game.
Their best player on offense is Ezekiel Elliott. He's their best player on offense. You could never go wrong. Like, if this ship is going to go down, I'm going to have the ship going down at least with me giving me the best player on my offense the most opportunities. So I agree with Garrett doing that. Like, if we're going to lose, let's lose behind Dak.
But you've been winning behind Dak and Amari.
But I think
open up that passing game, because that's, as a defensive coordinator, at this point up until the preseason, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let Dak beat me before I let Zeke beat me. That's my first priority.
Exactly, but I don't think Dak has it to because if you look at Dak's success early in the year throwing the ball, who was he beating? I know one of the wins was against the Washington Redskins. You know what I mean? And we know Washington is, who are they? I know they beat, didn't they beat the Giants earlier this year as well?
Miami.
But
Miami, still, like, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Is that really the strength of my offense when you do that against 3 bad teams?
But you go ahead now and you shift and you're fixing something that is showing you that you, even though it may be against some bad teams, that you're going to go ahead now and you're going to switch it and lean it all on Zeke. And now you're leaning it all on Zeke. For the most part, you're leaning on him more than you did the first 3 games, and now you're 0-3. There has to be some type of common denominator here where you went ahead and you leaned on the passing game, and granted that it may be that it was against some subpar teams, but you can see that even within the first 3 games, you were even saying on previous podcasts, this dude, you got to pay this dude. Now you're taking the ball out of his hands and put it into Zeke's hands, and now they're going 0-3.
Zeke is the only for sure thing on his offense. And, if you look at the past 2 games where the Cowboys, they start trailing, and Dak had to make plays to win the games. He can't do it. He's not that type of player.
But Dak went over for 300 yards, I want to say, in the second half against Green Bay.
Against Green Bay, he did throw for quite a bit of yards, but
300 the second half?
He's going to throw for 300 because it's they're trailing. They have to throw the ball to win. But I believe he had.
But they leaned on Zeke most of that first half.
I believe they had
and that's part of their defense.
2 to 3 picks. I believe that I think he had 2 or 3 picks alone in that game. So, I mean, I'm gonna let Dak. If I'm like you said, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm gonna load the box and I'm gonna stop Zeke. I'm gonna let Dak throw us 50 times. I know my percentage is better for me to win the game with Dak throwing 50 times than Zeke getting the ball 25 to 30 times.
But with Dak throwing, you're 3-0.
Against woeful teams.
Okay, but you can talk about those teams, but look at what he did in Green Bay in just the second half.
In a loss.
You're right. But in the first half, who did they lean on more?
I mean,
Dak's whole presence was almost non-existent in the first half.
The stats he put up in that game were almost trash time stats. I mean, Green Bay was dominating the game.
But that also falls on the defense as well.
On Green Bay's or
no?
What?
On Dallas's defense. Aaron Jones ran amok on these dudes.
Yes, he did. But Dak's numbers to me was more in. It was more in. The game was really decided. The game flow was already decided. It was almost like it was garbage time for me. Like when Dak puts up those type of numbers, it's like, okay, let me see you put those numbers up when you have the lead in the first half. But Dak always puts up those numbers in garbage time, which to me is too late. It's unimpressive. You know what I mean? It's like, of course, you have to throw the ball to come back, to be competitive, to stay in this game, to try to eke out a win.
Yeah, but if you're having your coaches go ahead and try to lean on Zeke the first half, try to just put it in perspective. You have your coaches calling all these pass plays. We're leaning on Zeke. We're leaning on Zeke. And now you're going into the second half trailing, and the coaches are saying, okay, we got to pass it now. It's all we can do. It even though it may be in garbage time, it shows you, at least in some spectrum, the upward ceiling that you can have with this dude Dak.
So I'm gonna ask you a question. So if you're the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator and you're getting ready for this game against Philadelphia, you're telling me your game plan going into this game is to feature more Dak in the passing game than Zeke
Absolutely.
in the running game?
With the way that this team and Kirk Cousins made this secondary look last week, because the Eagles secondary, I would much rather win going against the Eagles secondary than the Eagles front line.
But Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Dak. He's a better quarterback.
I'm going to take my chances against this Eagles secondary than this Eagles front.
Look, there's a difference. There's a difference from attacking that secondary with Kirk Cousins and with Dak.
But overall, so far this year, Philly is ranked 30th in passing yards allowed amongst quarterbacks. They're ranked 30 out of 32 in the passing game compared to where they are in rushing yards. I think they rank within the top 3 to 5. If I remember last, they ranked number 2, but they were ranked anywhere within the top 3 to top 5 rushing defense.
I'd have to see the quarterbacks they faced up to this point, but I mean, how
look at Philly. So we know Philly have went ahead and faced one of the top running offenses in the league in Minnesota.
Right.
And they got torched by Diggs. Dalvin Cooks, he may have had a good game, but Diggs went ahead and he showed you what he's capable of. Let alone, this is a 30th ranked passing offense, right? Look at what Aaron Rodgers was doing to him. They didn't do too much against Aaron Jones when they played him in Green Bay. So if I know that right now I'm going up against a team and I'm Kellen Moore, and I know I'm going up against a team who is ranked number 2 against the run and ranked number 30 in the passing.
So you're telling me, I mean, how you're speaking about Dak, are you in favor of giving him a contract?
The way he's performing, it's really right now, I blame it more on the coaching. Because all of his stats within the last 3 games have all been second half. When they have went ahead and leaned on him the most to go ahead and do what he does. Because remember, in the first part of the season when they opened up the passing game, you were in favor of giving this dude a contract.
I've never been in favor of giving him a contract. I've never been in favor of giving Dak because I feel like Dak's not worth it. I don't feel like he's worth the figure that he's looking for. I gotta see. I don't think he's worth the contract. I mean, to me, you can't say you're worth the contract and you lose to the Jets. I mean,
but that goes on. That not only does that fall upon your defense, that falls against your coaching and your play calling.
But let me
because
ask you
at the end of the day, if Dak says, "Okay, we lost to Green Bay, but I threw up 300 yards,"
let me ask you something. If Aaron Rodgers is the Dallas Cowboys quarterback and they go to the Jets with the same coaching staff, do they lose to the Jets? Absolutely not. If you take any quality quarterback and you put them on those Cowboys and you put them on a plane in MetLife, they don't lose that game.
But didn't Aaron Rodgers lose to Philly, the same team they're going up against in Lambeau?
But Philly's a better team than the Cowboys. Philly's a better team. The Jets, we're talking about the Jets that haven't won a football game this year.
Bro, if I remember right, they had Jordan Howard running. I want to say Deshaun Jackson was out. They leaned on Aguilar and they leaned on Alshon and Jordan Howard.
But the Philadelphia Eagles are they're borderline playoff team. Remember, they're 2 years.
They're ranked 30. They're ranked 30 in passing yards, and Aaron Rodgers couldn't beat them.
Are they a better team than the Jets? Yes or no?
Who?
Philadelphia.
Are they a better team than the Jets?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Okay. The Cowboys have no excuse to losing the Jets. A team that hasn't won a football game.
But that falls on their defense as well, plus their play calling.
Yeah, but I mean, it falls on the defense. But when are we going to stop giving Dak excuses? Like I said, if you put Russell Wilson on that Cowboys team, they're not losing to the Jets.
But you just went ahead and said put Aaron Rodgers on that team, but Aaron Rodgers lost to Philly.
Philly's a good football team.
Philly's ranked 30 in the passing game, and we're talking about Aaron Rodgers.
What does that mean, though? Just because you're ranked 30 in the passing game doesn't mean you can't win or lose a game. I mean, the Jets haven't won a game.
You're talking about Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback.
Correct.
Against a ranked 30 out of 32 passing defense.
So you're saying just because you're ranked out of 30, that means in passing that you can't win a game. That's what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that you're putting all this value on Aaron Rodgers in the passing game, but yet he lost to a team that's ranked 30 in passing and ranked number 2 in rushing.
Yeah, but if you watch the game, I think Wentz. I think he only threw for like 150 yards in that game. He didn't even really have a big game against.
No, Wentz didn't. No,
yeah, Wentz didn't even have a big game.
Jordan Howard did.
So you're saying that Philadelphia, the game was a good game. I mean, Philadelphia barely won the game. It came down to the last possession, and there were some drops actually in the end zone where Green Bay could have won the game.
So you mean to tell me right now, if I were to tell you Aaron Rodgers is facing the 30th ranked defense in passing defense in the league, you're not going to tell me without even hesitation that Aaron Rodgers is going to torch that defense?
No, I'm not going to tell you that.
The 30th ranked defense, you're not going to go ahead and tell me that Aaron Rodgers, because if you were to tell me, hey, no matter, you can just not even tell me what the team is. Aaron Rodgers facing the ranked 29th, 30th, 28th, whatever it is, defense in the league, what's the score going to be? And I'm going to tell you, Aaron Rodgers is going to pick apart that defense. The 30th ranked defense.
Against the pass, right?
Yes.
But Dak played a team that hasn't won a game. Philadelphia has wins, though. So wait. Philadelphia with that defense that's ranked 30th in passing has won games this year.
But I'm putting the quarterback that you're bringing up in this conversation. Because Aaron Rodgers is a prolific quarterback.
And he's better than Dak, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But you tell me that this dude is going against the 30th ranked passing defense in the league out of 32 teams, and you're going to go ahead and tell me that there's no reason why this team went ahead and won?
They lost because he was. I mean, there's two reasons why. And I wanted to speak on that Green Bay game, and we never really got to it during the podcast. There's two reasons why Green Bay lost that game. The first reason was there was a lot of drops. If you go down to when they drove down the field to win the game, there was a couple of drops in the end zone where you're just like, you got to make that play for Aaron Rodgers. Second was play calling. I believe they had 8 plays in the red zone to close out the game, and all 8 of them were passes. All 8 were passes in the red zone, and they didn't run the ball once.
Well, you're running against a second-ranked rush defense.
But Anthony, that's a stat. Just because you're ranked, I've seen games where teams are like, okay, this is the number 1 ranked rush defense, and they get lit up on the ground. You know what I mean? It's about game planning, and it's about mano a mano. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you may be ranked number 1 in the rush, but I'm going to run it down your throat because it's mano a mano. At the end of the day, it comes down to what happens on the field, not what's on the paper.
Yeah, but what happens on paper is a reflection of what happens on the field.
Correct, but just because on paper it displays, oh, we're number 1 in this, we're number 1 in that, you can still lose the game.
But you're not gonna go ahead and rank your play calling, or you're not gonna go ahead and make your play calling in your game scheme.
Absolutely not. And if you sit every offensive coordinator down right here, they're all arrogant, and they will all tell you whatever we run is going to work. So I don't care what your defense is ranked. What I'm going to call is going to work. I guarantee you, every offensive coordinator will say that.
Because right now I'm picking Philly to win. I'm picking Philly to win because they need to establish the run against Dallas. They've established the run. They showed you that they can run with Jordan Howard, who looked washed up in Chicago, right? But they showed you they can run against Green Bay, which isn't a slouch. But Dallas has showed you. Look at the Green Bay game with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones has showed you can run up and down the field on Dallas. So if they can go ahead and get Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders involved early on and establish that run defense and continue to wear out that defense, they're going to go ahead and they're not going to have a problem. And this is where Philly is going to take over that game, is establishing the run. You know, you still have Alshon. D-Jax is not back yet. You have Aguilar, but both of your running backs are healthy. You know, I mean, in Green Bay and Dallas, they want to. I want to say they ran for over. Aaron Jones ran for over 107 yards, and then Philly and Green Bay, they ran for over 170 yards. So they can establish this run game. That's not a problem. But against this Dallas defense, they need to establish that early, and they need to establish it fast.
Well, I don't really respect any of the running backs in Philadelphia, to be honest. I believe Aaron Jones is better than everybody in the backfield in Philly. I don't respect for them to come out and establish the running game. Like Miles Sanders he's okay, he's still a rookie, he's finding his way. I think he's honestly better in the passing game.
He's established himself as the passing back.
Right. And then Jordan
Howard is the rushing back.
Jordan Howard, I don't think anybody really respects him as a game breaker or somebody that's just going to break your back in a running game. So for me, it's going to be if Philadelphia wins this game, Wentz has to win this game. Wentz is going to have to get the ball to Ertz, to Alshon, to Aguilar. He's going to have to get it to his weapons. The weapons have to make plays for him, because I don't think the running game. I don't see it with them in the running game. They don't have. If I'm preparing for Philly,
but they ran all over Green Bay. Is Green Bay's defense better than Dallas's defense?
I gotta look at. If I'm preparing for Philly, I'm not afraid of the running game at all. I'm more afraid of what they have out here, in that time.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. I would go ahead and worry about Alshon and Ertz all day, but the way that Philly was able to run on Green Bay's defense, I mean, they rushed for over 100 and some odd yards against Green Bay's defense, and I at this point would say Green Bay's defense is better than Dallas's defense. Aaron Jones went ahead and showed you firsthand you can run all over this dude.
Right? You can run on the Cowboys. Don't get me wrong, but you got to have the workhorse to do it. Philly, I don't feel like has it. They don't really have the workhorse to. I don't think expose the Cowboys like that. I mean, I've watched Jordan Howard a few times when he was with the Bears, and I never really seen him have dynamic games like that where he's just absolutely like where you're sitting here, you're watching the game, and you're just like, no matter what they do, they can't stop this guy. They can't do it.
That was a few years ago.
Like the Cowboys against Jones, like we watched the game. You're like the Cowboys just can't line up and stop the guy. They just couldn't. You know what I mean? It's like they knew what was coming. I think Aaron Rodgers only had like 100 yards passing. It's like you know what's coming, Dallas Cowboys. Just stop it, and they couldn't. They just absolutely couldn't stop it. So, I have the Cowboys winning the game because I think Wentz is going to make a couple huge mistakes in the game to shift the direction in the Cowboys' favor. I think the Cowboys going back home to Dallas Stadium is going to help them out. It's going to be a ton of momentum for them. But I think Zeke has a big game. I think Zeke has a big game this week. Dak is going to make enough plays, you know. Amari Cooper coming back is going to be huge for him.
Yeah, but he's still coming off that quad issue.
So, yeah, I think they'll use him in a limited role. But I think him just having a familiar weapon out there, somebody he can rely on, it's gonna be a mental hurdle for him. You know, so I think they're gonna struggle, but I think they win the game. Like I said, on a field goal. I say the score should be tied. I would say about 24-24. Cowboys win 27-24. Barely win the game. I think it's going to be a hard-fought divisional game. They both know each other. They both play each other 2 times a year. And the Cowboys eke it out, barely. But like I said, if they don't win this game, don't be surprised if that man is up out of there.
Thursday night, Patrick Mahomes was taken out of the game due to a knee injury. News is Mahomes suffered a dislocated knee and is looking at a minimum of 3 weeks out. How is the Chiefs losing Mahomes going to affect the Chiefs and their season?
Man, that's a big... You thought Tyreek Hill was a big loss for the Chiefs at the beginning of the year. Smiley Mahomes. That's a pretty big loss. You know, they don't have a slouch in a backup in Matt Moore. I know when you and I were talking about the game, during the game, you know, we were trying to put our finger on where's Matt Moore come from. We've seen this dude play before. It was from Miami, right? This dude has been in the league since 2007. Up until this point, he's played for about 3 different teams. He got drafted, I believe, in Carolina. He's played for Miami for a while, and then he just got signed to Kansas City because Chad Henne, I think, hurt his ankle or broke his ankle in preseason. Matt Moore's not a slouch. It's funny because there's actually film. Before this season started, Matt Moore was the quarterback scout for the Dolphins. He was actually at Kyler Murray's pro day. And you could see him in the background at Kyler Murray's pro day, which was funny. But the dude's record up until they won, because they just beat the Broncos, he was 500, 15-15, right? But there was about a 4-year stretch in Miami that he didn't play. So he started to see his career in in Carolina. Went ahead and he played a few games every year there in his short 3-year period. I think it was there. Majority of his career was in Miami. Like I just stated, he actually was slated into their offensive scheme when it came to coaching and that end because he was a quarterback scout. But then he got signed in August. So this dude is just recently in August slated to go ahead and be the backup quarterback for Kansas City, right? He came in there, me and you were talking when he first came in there. He looked really uneasy about his passing. You notice that they were running a lot more to Shady than they were passing it anywhere else. But that touchdown pass that he gave to Reek, it was smooth. It was something smooth. It looked like it was just him and Tyreek had that connection. I don't know if they've ever really practiced together. If they, I think during the podcast they said that Matt Moore hasn't practiced with first team at all. But that dime that he went ahead and hit Tyreek with, and Tyreek just broke for that 57-yard touchdown, it looked pretty natural. He went on that day. Looking at my notes, he went ahead and had 10 completions, 117 yards, with that one touchdown pass to Tyreek, and no interceptions. Mm-hmm. So, coming in for Mahomes, there's going to be a lot of pressure. With Andy Reid's track record, I don't see, especially now because it's come out that that Mahomes may be out for 3 weeks. I don't see him really signing another backup for Matt Moore. I think he's going to lean on Matt Moore a whole lot more until Mahomes comes back. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Matt Moore is not a bad backup and not a bad pickup because of the talent and the eye that this dude has at quarterback. So I think this dude can really hold it down for another 3 to 4 weeks, 3 to 4 games. These dudes still have a bye coming up. I think it's later in the year though, so it depends on. I think their bye is week 12, if I remember right. We're going week 7, so if he can even hold it down for the next 4 weeks after this, it'll put them right about that time where they just need to go ahead and scrape into that bye week. I think if they can go ahead and get on a winning streak, they're already 1-0 under Matt Moore at this point. If this dude can take them to 3-1, and then go ahead and put them in a nice pace, I see Mahomes coming back at the end of their bye week. But they're not in too bad of a position. They're not leaning on another rookie quarterback or some inexperienced quarterback. They're not leaning on a Ryan Tannehill, for example. So I don't think that they're going to be too far off. They have a chance with their upcoming schedule to go ahead and stay afloat in the most part and stay relevant in the conference and in the playoff race. So it'll be interesting to see.
This injury was unfortunate. To be honest, I was kind of disappointed how it happened.
Absolutely.
It was just a QB sneak, and it's not like one of egregious hit or he was in the pocket and offensive lineman got pushed on his leg or something crazy like that. It was just something that was just like Andy Reid said. It was like a freak accident.
I blame Andy Reid.
You don't see this type of injury happen too often. You just don't.
Yeah, but I still blame Andy Reid, man.
Why is that?
Because you already have. So you have a dude that had gotten his ankle stepped on and has been dealing with an ankle injury, right? I mean, it's not a significant ankle injury to where you're taking him out of the game, but the dude obviously is not as mobile as he has been the beginning of the season. So you go ahead and you take a dude that has an ankle injury, and you're gonna go ahead and throw him into the pile of a bunch of 250+ pound men, like it's just nothing's gonna happen. I mean, look at Walk It To Him 2 years ago. The dude went ahead and got hit on the way diving in for a touchdown,
correct,
I believe.
Correct.
And was out.
Correct.
You have one of the best players that you have in your offensive engine, and you're going to have him dive on a quarterback sneak? Come on, man.
The Wentz injury was more of a bang. He did dive in. There was a lot more action in it. Usually, to come in Andy Reid's defense, usually when you sneak a quarterback, you don't expect, at least dislocated knee, you really don't expect that. I understand where you're coming from. He did have a banged up. He did have a bad ankle. So to sneak him up the middle, you are risking it. But to hear that he came out with a dislocated knee was just, like I said, I agree with Andy Reid. It's a freak accident. Like, you don't expect that to happen.
Yeah, but in the same token, you don't expect it to happen, but you have a dude that's on his hurt ankle So you have other parts of your leg that are having to overcompensate for your hurt ankle, right? You put a bigger burden on different muscles and different joints than you would as if this dude had a solid ankle and wasn't injured. I don't really see I see a very slight percentage of his knee dislocating, but because this dude has a hurt ankle, now you're putting more pressure on your knees, on your ACL, MCL, your Achilles, your whole leg to support. Because if you look at it, the bottom of your leg is your ankle. So if you're going ahead and you have a hurt ankle, you're putting more stress on your knee to compensate for all that pressure and everything when you even walk on a regular basis, because the foundation of your footing is not your foot, it's your ankle. That's the foundation of your joints.
I agree. I would agree more with you if it was, like, let's say Andy Reid told him, okay, you're going to run a QB draw. You're going to snap it and run up the middle. I mean, like I said, like I go back to, it's just you snap it and you literally fall forward. It's like you don't even have to do, you don't have to be athletic to do that. Look at Tom Brady. He snuck in the end zone a week ago twice, and that fool we all know he's not athletic.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a hurt ankle.
You don't, but I don't think the dislocated knee was because of the ankle. I just think it's a freak accident. Where you won't ever see this going forward again. It will probably never happen again. But as far as the injury, I feel like it's a bigger injury than just the Chiefs. The kid is the poster boy now for the NFL. He hit the scene and, he dominated. And now, I mean, you look at him this year, he has advertisements all over the NFL. Every time they go to commercial, you see Mahomes.
He's taking over the discount double check.
Yeah, he is. He is like the guy is. He is. He really is. He's the poster boy of the league. So it's a league issue, and a Chiefs issue. So, and also when he comes back, I mean, the Chiefs got best case scenario. He's only going to be out 3 weeks. He doesn't have to have season-ending surgery, pretty much. So when he comes back, it's going to be interesting to see if he comes back and he's still the same Mahomes. And this is where I feel like it comes more to what you were saying, like when he comes back, is he going to be favoring that knee? Because the ankle should be afterthought. He should be healed from the ankle once he comes back from this.
Well, he's going to need surgery on that knee, but it's not.
Probably in the offseason.
Probably
but
later than sooner.
when he comes back and he takes the field, is he going to be favoring it? Because this year, more than what we've seen last year, he added his mobility into his game, which he had to because defenses are playing him different. So it's going to be interesting to see how he moves in the pocket. Does he still run out of the pocket? Like how does he operate now as the Chiefs quarterback? That's going to be something to look at. But it's a devastating injury. Matt Moore, he is what he is. He's a Band-Aid for the situation. I don't know if he's going to come in and, keep the team afloat. I feel like this is where Andy Reid comes into the picture. You're the head coach. Coach him up, and you got to hold his hand. Got to get a couple of wins until Mahomes can come back. So this is where Andy Reid got to step in and guide this team. So the next 3 weeks is going to be definitely interesting for the Chiefs, especially when they came off losing 2 straight, and then they needed this one against Denver. Denver was they're a abysmal team. They're a bad football team. They should have won with Mahomes or Matt Moore. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do going forward. They got themselves off to a nice start, so they're not in desperate need of wins. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see if they can stay afloat.
I'm with you.
And for this next segment, we are going to do the rapid fire round. Anthony and Warren are going to pick their favorites of this week. We're going to start off with Warren. Who do you have with the Seahawks versus the Ravens?
That's going to be an interesting one. I mean, 2 of our MVP candidates between Lamar Jackson and Russ. I think Seattle's on a roll right now. I'm probably going to lean that way. I'm a roll with Russ because Russ just looks invincible. So I'm rolling with Seattle.
Baltimore is at a disadvantage this week. Marquise Brown did not practice Wednesday or Thursday, and I want to say he didn't practice Friday. He's probably not going to play on Sunday. So with that being said, I mean, Lamar just has his feet and tight end Andrews to really lean on. Last week without Brown, the other receivers didn't really go ahead and shine too hard. I'm going to go ahead. I want to say they're at Seattle. 12th man's going to definitely play a role in this, but I'm going to go with Seattle on this one.
Saints versus Bears.
I heard Mitchell Trubisky practice this week, which is I feel like is huge for the Bears. They need to get their starting quarterback back. I'm probably gonna lean. I'm gonna lean on the Saints. I know on an earlier podcast I said they were in trouble, but I mean this guy Teddy Bridgewater has been stepping up. To be honest, I can't really say anything bad about the guy. I mean he stepped up to the plate. He looks like a starting quarterback in his league. He filled in beautifully for Breeze. So I'm going with the Saints to go on the road and beat the Bears.
Going to be really trouble waters for Teddy this week because there's no Alvin Kamara. I mean, I know Latavius kind of stepped it up a little bit last week, but against this Bears defense with no Kamara, it's going to be really hard for them to lean on Michael Thomas. They have Latavius, but the Latavius really hasn't been a showstopper. I don't really see him doing too much against this just beastly Chicago defense. I'm going with Chicago.
Texans versus Colts.
Colts had a big win. I know they're coming off a bye. They got a big win against Kansas City. I believe it was like on Monday night or Sunday night a couple weeks ago. They're taking on a red-hot Houston team. They went into Kansas City and they got a win as well. This one I feel like it's gonna be a fun game. But I feel like Houston's a better team. I'm gonna roll with Deshaun.
Yeah, I'm going my man Deshaun all the way. I see DeAndre Hopkins getting involved more in this game. They can't really depend
Hope
on. They can't really depend on Hyde too much. I know he did his thing, last week. They have Duke Johnson. He really hasn't lived up to what his capability, I feel, especially when he was on the Browns. So I'm going to go with Houston on this one.
Alrighty, 49ers versus Washington.
Squad. Let me show the camera the squad.
You better hope.
Squad. This one should be fairly easy, to be honest. The Niners are a better team than Washington. Could be a trap game though. So if they don't go into this game focused and overlooking these next two teams for Seattle, they could catch an L. But I mean, with that defensive line, I mean, Keenum shouldn't have time to do anything, and they don't have the talent to beat the Niners, to be honest. So I have the Niners going 6-0. I have the Niners winning in Washington.
As long as the Niners stay on focus the way they have been over the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks, going to their sixth game, I feel they have all the tools and all the weapons to go ahead and beat Washington. Washington's in a transition between their coaching. They haven't really showed too much. They lost last week as well. No, they beat Miami. They beat Miami.
Yeah,
that's not saying much. They barely beat Miami. A lot of it was a big punting game.
The Tank Bowl.
It was a Tank Bowl. Not saying much. I mean, if you look at it, Niners are gonna have to win this one.
Eagles versus Cowboys.
Ah, man, dude. I love to hate on the Cowboys, to be honest. Like, I feel like Stephen A. Smith. Like, it's just, I mean, when the Cowboys lose, there's nothing better than it. This is going to be a good game. I mean, the Cowboys are on a 3-game losing streak. I feel like the Cowboys are frauds. They haven't beat anybody this year. They got off to a 3-0 start, and everybody was high on them. This is a must-win for them. They got to win this game. Plus, it's in division. Philly travels to Dallas. I know last week I picked the upset. You didn't believe in it, but I told you the Jets will win the game. This week,
that man Amari went out though.
The Cowboys are going to be desperate. They're going to be scrappy. They're going to do anything to get this win. I hate to pick the Cowboys, but I think they'll win this week. I think the Cowboys win this week.
I know we talked about it earlier with what the Cowboys need to do to win this week. I just the way Philly has been rolling. I see Philly going in there and doing what they need to do in Jerry World for an upset.
Cowboys drop 4 straight.
Cowboys drop 4 straight.
I hope you're right.
Philly goes ahead and does their thing. We'll see, but I got Philly.
I hope you're right.
I got to walk it to him, going ahead and walking in there and walking it to him.
Packers versus Raiders.
I hate the Raiders as well. just to be straightforward, I can't stand the Raiders. Raiders are 3-2, which I'm impressed at this point. I didn't have them at being at 3-2. They're coming off a bye week and they had a big win over the Bears. But they're traveling. They're still on the road. I mean, this road trip they're on is crazy. I don't think I've ever seen an NFL team endure this. So they're traveling to Lambeau Field. As you know earlier, I picked Aaron Rodgers as my MVP candidate, as one of my MVP candidates. I think there'll be too much for Raiders this week. I have the Raiders falling to 3-3. Green Bay winning the game.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Aaron Rodgers goes ahead with the Lazard King. He goes ahead and he sticks it to him. They don't have. I think Terrell Williams is still out, so Carr doesn't really have too many receiving options. Aaron Rodgers can make it happen with the dude that's walking off the street in his receiving core. Especially at Lambeau, I don't see them scraping by and pulling off an upset like they did in Chicago and in New England or in England.
Vikings versus Lions.
That's an interesting matchup. I feel like the Vikings have been playing with their hair on fire ever since they had their little turmoil early in the season when Diggs wanted to be traded and Thielen was calling out Cousins. They had a big week last week against Philadelphia. They showed up and showed out. Detroit has been an interesting team this year. Like they're really a quality football team, to be honest. They went into Green Bay last week and they played a well game. They should have won the game. Couple tough penalties that hurt them in that game that may have shifted the momentum in a different way. This one's a tough one to pick. I will probably go with Detroit to win this game.
I'm going opposite. I'm going Minnesota. The Vikings are going to go ahead and go in there. They're going to stick it to them on the run. Dalvin Cook has been crazy with it. Detroit's secondary isn't the top secondary in the league. You have two offensive weapons. I mean, Diggs showed you last week a small sample taste of really what he can do and what he's been frustrated on his lack of opportunity to do. If first Cousins can go ahead and keep this ball rolling between Thielen, Diggs, and Zimmer will go ahead and mix it up with Dalvin Cook and not lean on one side of the offense heavier than the other, they have more than enough weapons to go ahead and go in there and beat Detroit.
Dolphins versus Bills.
Go ahead, pick them. Pick them. Pick them.
Me and this guy got a bet on the Buffalo Bills. I hate to pick Buffalo.
But you ain't want to.
We got a $25 bet that if Buffalo will make the playoffs. So Miami's trash. Like I said earlier, they're in the tank bowl against Washington. They lost to Washington. Gave Washington their first win of the season last week. So
just say it. You want to.
I mean, I have to take Buffalo. I don't want to, but I'm going with Buffalo. But
Buffalo.
It is what it is.
Buffalo, baby. Buffalo's going to come in there. Dolphins are waiting for Tua to get there, so they're not doing too much. I mean, they lost against Washington, so Buffalo. Just chalk. This is 1 week closer to hitting the playoffs.
Next. Next up.
I'm going to change this one up. Rams versus Falcons.
Let's go next. Look, man. Okay,
Come on, big fella.
So I'll start this one off. So first off, Jalen Ramsey is now a Ram.
Oh, yeah.
So, we got to go ahead and put some respect on the Rams defense more than we did last week.
Correct.
They went ahead first part of the week. You hear that they went ahead and let go of Marcus.
Yep, Peters.
And you just kind of scratched your head like, what are these guys doing? Because you have Clay Matthews out with a broken jaw. You have Talib on injured reserve. And then now they went ahead and dropped Marcus, and you're just kind of like, what are they doing? And then, bam, they went ahead and signed Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey has been quoted to say he's happy he's there. Leaving Jacksonville, I'd have been happy to be in Washington if I was him. But at this point, I really don't think that marriage is going to last too long. But that's a different subject for a different day. Gurley is projected to go ahead and play. I know he was doubtful at the beginning of the week, but McVay came out and said today that Gurley and Jalen will both play this week. That's scary.
Say it with your chest, big fella.
That's scary. Matt Ryan's going to have to go ahead and defend against Aaron Donald with just Aaron Donald and that monster defensive line going against this non-existent offensive line that we got. It's very strong that the Rams are favored in this one.
So you're taking the Rams?
I'm going to be a Raiders fan and just say, 1 week at a time, man. 1 week at a time. We taking this 1 week at a time. And, we got a cool chance. We got a cool chance.
So who you taking? Who you taking?
The Rams, the Rams have a strong chance of going ahead and winning this one.
Oh man, at least you being real about it.
No, in all nonsense aside, I mean the way you look at it, Goff against this defense. Falcons have went ahead and said that Vic Beasley's on the trading block. Vic Beasley has been a former shell of himself. We don't have our safety. We're not really. I don't think Trufant is playing this week either. Our defense, just like last year, was on their last leg. With Kupp, with Cooks, with Woods, you even get Everett in there to go ahead and have another breakout game. Goff should have no problem going ahead and just taking this team down. I believe it'll be a shootout. I do think that they'll go ahead and hit the over on it. I want to say the over is somewhere in the 50s. If I was betting on this one, which I am, I would bet on the over. It is going to be a shootout because as of right now, you only have Jalen Ramsey really locking down Julio. But as I showed you in Arizona, you still have Calvin Ridley who can still go ahead and do his thing. You have one of the top tight ends right now in the league who's really was a no-name and on nobody's radar at the beginning of the year, which is an Austin Hooper. And you still have Mo Sanu. You can't look over Mohamed Sanu for what he can do in many different aspects. I'm not saying this dude is going to be an overall breakout MVP candidate, but this is going to be a high-scoring game compared to what the Rams have on defense. As long as that O-line can give Matt Ryan some time to go ahead and make his passes, do his checkdowns. I really don't even see him checking his first checkdown to be Julio this week with Jalen Ramsey and the talent that dude has and trying to go ahead and hit Julio. Julio is a monster all in himself. It's going to be a high-scoring game, but the way that the teams are stacked, I'm going to go with the Rams on this one.
At first, I was leaning Rams. I for all the reasons that you laid out, I was going with the Rams. But after watching them last week, I think there is something wrong with the Rams. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it yet. What the real problem is. I think they traded for Ramsey to put a Band-Aid over it and to fix the issue, which their secondary wasn't really bad when you have Talib and Peters. I mean, you have two quality corners. But the team just doesn't look like what they looked like last year. Part of it is the running game, and they haven't really committed to it with Gurley. I'm taking Atlanta, bro. I'm taking Atlanta because, one, I don't trust golf. I trust Matt Ryan more than I trust golf. Atlanta's one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. And like I said, when I sit down and I watch the Rams, there's something wrong with it. Like I said, I just can't put my finger on it.
That's the running.
But, and I think the running game has a part of it. But even the defense, I don't see a dominant defense out there. So I'm taking Atlanta and for the Rams to continue this losing streak. I think the NFC West is going to be out of the Niners and Seattle.
I think with right now, the Rams know this is a must-win because right now they're already almost on the outside looking out.
Yep.
They're outside looking in.
Yep.
Atlanta right now, I mean, we're not playing for too much at this point. There's a lot of different pieces that we need to change out. I think, and I hate to say this because I love Vic Beasley, but Vic Beasley is now on the trading block, and that's one of the pieces that we needed to go ahead and start with this ball. Now, there are a lot of other pieces, a lot on the defense, more so than the offense, but they've started the ball rolling. And I think Dan Quinn is now on the hot seat. A lot of people didn't really want to believe Dan Quinn was the issue because there were a lot of scapegoats over the last couple of years. But this dude is really on the hot seat at this point, and I'm a huge advocate of Dan Quinn. You know that probably more than anybody in here. But to me, it's almost looking like, okay, well, we've got rid of more on what our third offensive coordinator now since Super Bowl. It's still not working out. Something's going on,
Right. Real quick, a couple names I feel like that you should pay attention to is Chase Young. I feel like he's the number one defensive end coming out of college. I think he's going to end up on your guys' team. The guy's a beast. If you watch him, he plays for Ohio State, and he's honestly probably the best defensive player in the nation. I mean, he followed Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. One's in L.A., one's with the Niners. Bosa's killing it.
Yeah,
but Chase Young, the guy is going to be a monster. The second thing is last week, that was my upset of the week was the Jets and Cowboys. This is my upset of the week. So I'm taking Atlanta over the Rams. It's my upset of the week.
I wouldn't say it's the upset of the week.
It's the upset of the week.
It's not the upset of the week. Put some respect on them.
I'm going to start back off with you. Chargers versus Titans.
Chargers. I mean, they have Mariota on the bench now. They have Tannehill starting. I'm going to go, Chargers have been on a little bit of a losing streak. The Chargers, if you really look at them, they do everything in increments and in streaks. It's about time that they go ahead and turn this back around. Keenan Allen, I would like to say will have a bigger game and have a bigger impact than he has over recent weeks. I'm gonna go with the Chargers, even though I kind of want to go with Tennessee. I'm gonna go with the Chargers. Phillip Rivers. I'm gonna go with the quarterback talent.
I will probably lean with the Chargers as well. Even though they had a terrible showing last week against who they played last week, they played Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's trash. But I think they'll get it together this week, and the Chargers should win the game.
Cardinals versus Giants.
Oh, that man Saquon's coming back. That's scary. I think Ingram's coming back this week too.
Mm-hmm.
So Danny Dimes, he has some talent to go ahead and work on. He's not going to be so reliant. I see Daniel Jones having a better showing than he did in New England. Last week, I'm going to go with Saquon coming back and Evan Ingram coming back. I'm going to go with the Giants on this one.
I have to agree. I have Saquon having a monster game this week.
That's not saying much against Arizona's defense, though.
It's not saying much. I do forecast a shootout because, my respect for Kyler Murray is just going up more and more each week. The guy is – I didn't think he did this early, but the guy is – he has the ability to be a great quarterback in this league. So I have all the respect for him, but – that man Saquon, I think he's been anticipating this. I mean,
he's a man on a mission.
If you follow that guy on Instagram, he's like, the guy's excited. So I expect a Christian McCaffrey type of day out of Saquon tomorrow on Sunday. So
and there's no better game right now against Arizona's defense to really bring this dude back and then build that momentum with this team with Saquon and Ingram coming back.
Exactly.
I don't know if Sterling. I think Sterling's still in the concussion protocol, but there are talks and whispers of him coming back. But I'm not counting on it. But with Ingram and Saquon, I would say this is the game against that Cardinals defense.
Golden Tate had a big game against Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he did. I mean, Golden Tate, he is a vet. I don't see once Sterling really comes back and Saquon now being back in Ingram, I don't think you're going to see as much from Golden Tate in that slot position as you did against New England. But he's not someone to overlook. You know, he's had his time learning this playbook. He's done more so far than he did on Philly last year. So, but yeah, Giants all the way.
Patriots versus Jets.
Upset of the week.
Of course you're going to say that.
Upset of the week.
Of course you're going to say
Why
that.
would I? Why, of course?
Because of the action that we took. Of course you're going to say that.
No.
Yes.
No,
yes.
it had nothing to do with the action.
Yeah.
No.
Stop. 0%?
0% what?
It has 0% of it. You picking the Jets has 0%.
That has 0%.
Oh, you can't.
So for those of you that don't remember on previous podcasts, Warren made the mistake of betting me that the Patriots are going to go 16-0.
Mistake. Keyword. I made the mistake.
You made the mistake. I'm not letting you out of it. So, Jets, they got Sammy Darnold back. They got Herndon back. They're coming. They're riding high right now, man. They're riding high. They went ahead and just stuck it to the Cowboys.
But you didn't think they'd beat the Cowboys. You picked the Cowboys last.
You right. You right. You right. Well, let my man fly. His wings are already spread. Let him fly.
So now you want to hop on his Jets wagon after I showed you the way.
Wagon.
I showed you the way.
No.
I showed you the way last week.
All you did was go this way.
I showed you the way.
I'm just talking about upset of the week because people are riding so high on New England in this defense. I feel like if there's any team that can really go ahead and backdoor them, it's going to be the Jets at this point.
You're I don't know what you're thinking, bruh. I don't know what you're thinking. With this Patriots D and how they're playing, these guys are playing at lights out, bruh. Like, I've never seen a Patriots D perform on this level, period. Like, I mean, just on a fantasy level, if you have the Patriots defense, you're probably winning your matchup every week. I mean, these fools are putting up 20 to 25 points week in, week out because they're scoring touchdowns, they're blocking punts, they're intercepting the ball, sacks.
Pick six.
I mean, yeah, pick six. Like, this defense is just balling out. A lot of it is because they're playing poor competition. You know, they're
weakest schedule.
Yeah, their schedule is just absolutely trash. It's just bad. I expect them to come out and dominate, to be honest. I mean, they're going to dominate the Jets. They're not the Cowboys. You know, the Cowboys are just they're lame ducks at this point. You could just see that they would go into New York and lose the game. We're talking about Tom Brady here. You know what I mean? We're talking about Bill Belichick. We're talking about Hall of Fame guys here. So
the team that lost to Nick Foles in the Super Bowl.
Come on, man.
Come on.
That's the Super Bowl.
Foles. Nick, I'm going to go ahead and fold the Patriots.
They'll go into New York. They'll get the job done. It might be close. It might be a close game. I don't know what the spread is on it. I think it's like
17 points.
Oh, that's a spread? That's too high.
Something ridiculous.
They won't beat them by 17.
Oh, no. Who has a 17-point spread?
Is the Niners?
No. It is Buffalo, I think. Buffalo, Miami. I think Buffalo has a 17-point spread.
That's ridiculous. But Patriots won the game. There's no upset here. There's
see
this
the
guy.
back
This
door.
guy
I
is
see
being
the back
delusional.
door.
No upset alert. He doesn't know how to pick these upsets like me. So, Patriots are going to win this game.
Didn't I pick an upset last week?
If you did, you was probably wrong.
No. If I picked it, that means I was right.
I mean, you wasn't right like me. I picked the Jets.
You picked the Jets, but
That was you didn't have the cojones to pick that.
no, I'm trying to remember my upset of last week, and I think I was right. I'd have to look. But just remember, I said the Jets this week.
And bring it back full circle. I might go roll Miami over Buffalo. Fitzmagic's playing.
Go ahead. You want to do it right now? We're on the record right now. Do it.
I'm not
Do it.
listening. I'm
Okay.
not going on the record yet.
Yeah.
But that game is going to be
You're right.
interesting, more interesting than what you think.
Come on.
Fitzmagic is playing.
Say it. Say it then. Don't look at Tony. Don't look at Simone. Say it.
So your upset of the week was what?
The Jets.
Jets over Patriots? All right, big fella.
Why? But are you gonna say Miami?
No, I'm rolling with Buffalo, but I'm just saying
With
pay
who?
close attention to that game.
With who?
Buffalo.
Say it again. One time for the people in the back.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of At the Office. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as well as hit that bell notification so you're notified every time we do an upload. Also, check out our friends at Red Pill Station on both YouTube and Instagram. Also, make sure to check out all our socials at Real at the Office on Twitter, Instagram, and here. We will catch you on the next one.